Before this story begins, understand this. What you are about to hear is not just a survival story. It is the story of a mother and a child who were thrown away in the cold and forced to fight for their lives with nothing but courage and love. Stories like this remind us how strong the human spirit can be when everything else is taken away. If you believe stories of strength deserve to be heard, take a moment to support this channel, stay connected, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps bring more real stories like this to life. The wind cut through Laya's coat as she pulled her daughter closer. Snow covered the land in every direction. Behind them, the ranch they once called home grew smaller with every step. Warmth and shelter were left behind, not by choice, but by cruelty. Laya stopped counting days. In the cave, time felt different. Morning came when soft light slipped through the cracks in the rock. Night came when the fire burned low and long shadows moved across the stone walls. Every morning, she woke before June. She sat quietly and listened. The drip of water. The deep silence of the cave. The slow, steady breathing of her daughter. These sounds told her they were still alive and still together. She gently touched June's hair and whispered that they had made it through another night. Those small words gave her strength, even when her body felt heavy and tired. At first, June had many bad dreams. She cried in her sleep and called for her father. Laya held her close and rocked her gently, telling soft stories about strong people who survived hard times. Slowly, the bad dreams became fewer. June began to sleep more peacefully. Her small face looked calmer in the firelight. She began to smile again, laugh again, play again. The cave became her whole world, and in her young heart, it became normal. For Laya, nothing was easy. Her hands were always sore. Her back always ached. Some days her body felt so tired that standing felt like a battle. But every time she looked at June, a deeper strength rose inside her. One cold morning, Laya went out to collect wood. The wind cut into her face. Snow stung her skin. She pulled her scarf tighter and kept moving forward. She slipped on the ice and fell hard. Pain spread through her side and chest. For a moment, she lay still in the snow, staring at the gray sky. Then she forced herself to breathe slowly. She pushed herself up. Step by step, she dragged the wood back to the cave. When she reached the entrance, June ran to her side. Blood had soaked through Laya's torn glove. Laya wrapped it tightly and said nothing more. That night, after June fell asleep, Laya cried quietly into her blanket. Not from weakness, but from the heavy weight of being the only one responsible for everything. The cave slowly began to feel like a real home. Not a comfortable home, but a safe one. Wood was stacked in neat piles. Fish dried on flat stones near the fire. Blankets were folded on the sleeping platform. A small corner belonged to June and her stone animals and cloth dolls. June grew stronger. Her steps became steadier. Her eyes became more watchful. She learned that the cave was both shelter and secret. Laya taught June how to hold the fishing line. How to wait quietly. How to pull slowly and carefully. June's hands were small, but her focus was strong. Each small success filled her with quiet pride. Cold nights still came. Sometimes the fire burned low. The cave filled with deep, heavy silence. Laya held June close under the blankets, sharing warmth, listening to the wind far outside the stone walls. Spring came slowly. The air softened. The snow melted into thin streams. Birds returned to the bluffs. The smell of wet earth reached the cave entrance. One morning, sunlight touched Laya's face as she stepped outside. The warmth felt almost unreal. She closed her eyes and stood still for a long moment. In her heart, she held the picture of a small house, a real door, a future where June could grow without fear. Some nights, old memories returned. The ranch. The cold faces. The final walk away. The sound of a door closing. Those memories tried to break her spirit. But then she would hear June breathing softly in sleep. That sound brought her back to the present. That sound reminded her of why she kept going. The cave no longer felt like a prison. Over time, it became a place of strength. Every stone, every piece of wood, every mark on the wall told the story of a mother who refused to give up and a child who learned to be brave in silence. June grew taller. Her face looked less thin. Her eyes carried a quiet wisdom. She helped with everything. She carried small sticks. She cleaned fish. She stacked stones. She learned to be careful, patient, and strong. The days grew longer. The light stayed in the cave a little longer each evening. The worst of winter finally loosened its grip. When spring fully arrived, Laya made her decision. The cave had protected them, but it was no longer meant to hold their future. One clear morning, she packed what little they owned. She wrapped the fishing line, folded the blankets, and tied their supplies carefully. June stood beside her, holding one small cloth doll and watching the light spill into the cave. They took one last look at the stone walls that had kept them alive through the cruelest months. Laya placed her hand on the cool rock and whispered a quiet thank you. Not to the cave, but to the strength inside herself that had carried them through. They stepped out together into the open air. The sun touched their faces. The land stretched wide in front of them. For the first time in a long while, the road ahead did not feel like an escape. It felt like a true beginning. They were no longer just a mother and a child who were thrown away. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were proof that even when the world turns its back, the human heart can still stand. Their story did not end in darkness. It ended in strength. It ended in hope. It ended with a future that could not be taken from them. If this story touched your heart, stay connected for more real stories of survival, strength, and courage. Subscribe to the channel to keep these voices alive. Comment your thoughts below and share this story to inspire others. Follow for more stories like this. Even in the darkest places, light can still be built by human hands.